Hey, it's Monday, September 15th, and across Central America, the streets are alive with celebration. On this day in 1821, Costa Rica, Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, and Nicaragua all declared their independence from Spain. And in Costa Rica, the traditions have been building all weekend. Children in bright traditional costumes marching proudly with their schools, music and parades filling the plazas, and the antorcha, the independence torch, carried across the country not only by runners but by hundreds of motorcyclists. A roaring parade of light and sound that signals freedom is still burning strong. Feliz Dia de la Independencia, Costa Rica, a reminder that liberty is worth celebrating, worth defending, and worth handing down. And while our neighbors to the south are waving their flags of freedom, here in the United States, we are mourning. Last week, we didn't lose a border or a battle, we lost a voice. A man whose only weapons were words and faith. Charlie Kirk. Well, let's be clear from the start. The same political actors now pretending to denounce political violence helped cultivate it. For years, Charlie was labeled a bigot, a radical, a misogynist, a racist, a purveyor of hate. Not because he preached violence, but because he preached truth, his biblical truth. He called out rot in institutions. He exposed lies in schools. He evangelized on campuses many on the left believed they owned. He spoke clearly, boldly, unapologetically, and for that, he was targeted. And the same Democratic voices that spent the last decade saying, get in their faces, make them uncomfortable, harass them at restaurants and gas stations, wherever they are. Well, now they feign shock at the culture that followed. And before the reflexive deflection appears, but Trump's got hateful rhetoric too, well, let's address it. Trump is brash. He speaks like a New York businessman, not a polished career politician. The tone can be sarcastic and even sophomoric at times, but unpolished language is not a call to violence. He did not dehumanize Americans for their beliefs or instruct crowds to harass political opponents. January 6th has been branded as an insurrection. Well, that label does not fit the facts as many of us understand them now. There was no coordinated armed overthrow, and the only person killed during the confrontation was Ashley Babbitt, an unarmed Air Force veteran shot by Capitol Police. So those still clinging to the worst day in American history narrative are not seeking clarity. They're defending a political weapon. Meanwhile, here's the truth the smear machine can't erase. Charlie Kirk, a voice of the generation. He spoke directly to young people, all races, all religions, all sexual orientations. If a person had a voice, he gave it space. If a person had questions, he offered truth. Even when he disagreed with someone's lifestyle, he did not stop loving them. He believed every person is made in the image of God. He didn't shut down dissent. He didn't attack. He engaged, he elevated, he challenged with conviction and compassion. And even in death, his voice grows louder because truth doesn't die, it multiplies. So into that moment steps Barack Obama, a president who has spent years smiling while dividing, who helped mainstream the framing that conservatives equals racist, who fueled identity politics and moral elitism. Now he says he is saddened. Saddened? Or maybe afraid that the culture unleashed could point its sights in any direction. Is that the world built by such rhetoric? There is no room for surprise when it turns on its architects. The assassination was horrific. The aftermath has been even uglier. Cancel culture had its season, and now the culture of consequences has arrived. Over the last 48 hours, the public has witnessed people laughing about Charlie's death, people celebrating it, denying services to mourners, trampling candlelight vigils like trash, often from voices that have branded themselves as tolerant, loving, and inclusive. The response has begun. Hundreds dismissed from jobs after glorifying the assassination. Boycotts launched against businesses praising the killing. Listen, agreement on politics or theology isn't required, but a baseline of human decency is. The murder of innocent people is wrong. Any movement that cannot affirm that simple truth stands on the wrong side of humanity. Also, over the weekend, another familiar deflection resurfaced. What about the Democrat lawmaker in Minnesota who was killed? Well, that tragedy took place back in June when Minnesota House Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark were shot and killed in their home. State Senator John Hoffman and his wife were also wounded in the same attack. It was immediately labeled politically motivated. And here's the context often left out. The killer wasn't a conservative. He was reportedly a far left activist who claimed he acted for Tim Walz. In the wake of that tragedy, Minnesota Republicans did not gloat. They did not minimize. House Minority Leader Lisa DeMuth called for a moment of silence on the floor in their honor. Governor Walz ordered flags in Minnesota lowered to half staff. There was bipartisan grief, respect, and mourning. And then, as soon as the suspect's political leanings became clear, those headlines vanished. So when Democratic leaders try to claim conservatives didn't care, that's just false. The truth is, life was honored, respect was shown, but the media buried the motive. The principle remains, though. Political violence is evil, no matter the target. But for the left, outrage seems to come only when the narrative can be weaponized. So where do we go from here? It's not enough just to be angry. It's not enough just to mourn. We fix this by demanding accountability, like holding judges accountable who keep releasing violent offenders back onto the streets only for them to strike again and again. Possibly enacting what we could call the Charlie Kirk Act, a standard that says any elected official, Republican or Democrat, who openly calls for violence or harassment against political opponents should be recalled or removed from office. Demand prosecutors enforce the law instead of playing politics. End the double standards in how justice is applied once and for all. Because this isn't just about Charlie Kirk. It's about whether America is willing to stand up and say, we will not excuse violence. We will not tolerate leaders who normalize hate, and we will not let this cycle repeat. My family in Washington won't fix this. It starts in every community, every courtroom, every ballot box. The choice is simple. Cling to corruption or fight for clarity. And as always, think on your own accord.